Oh, man. Today is a rough day. I was gonna say it's not a good day, but it's just a day, but I just woke up here in Tokyo to the news of Bob Weir's passing, and I'm really, really sad about it, and, I just spent I just read like 20 or 30 minutes ago, and, not even and I just want to, like, I don't know, grieve, I guess, with anybody else who might want to. Um, I see Chuck T in the house. What's up, Chuck? Um, he says, "Rest easy, Bobby." I know, I mean, Bobby, okay, so I'm a deadhead. I'm a unapologetic deadhead. I've been a deadhead since I was 16 years old, maybe 15, and, I have little ears in the room, and I have to be mindful of, the stories I can tell today, but I got hip to the Dead, like, when I was young, and, like, they didn't click. They didn't initially click. I listened to them a handful of times, and, like, I was just trying to find out what I was listening for, and there was actually I remember very vividly, um, I think it was in 1991, with Net. I think it was the Via Without a Net and Jerry Low, where I was I was, in the headspace, and I was listening to that solo, and it was just and my ears just, like, lit and, um, I it's interesting, I just distinctly remember that particular moment, and then I hear guitar playing over everything, and I never stopped listening to it, um, and it came about, like, learning the discography and finding out who the members were and learning Ron Pigpen McKern was in the hot seat, and that his song "Easy Wind" was kinda like my first initial favorite song, and Saint Stephen, and God, the first time you hear Saint Stephen, you hear Bobby do that, "Woo! I wanna tell you how it is." And, Dark Star, and then you hear about the acid test, and then you're like a teenager, and you're just like it's a whole universe of musical, exploration, and I was just totally transfixed, and, this way, and, yeah, me and my buddies, it's like we all went in, and we all just like, the more it was the first music that I could close my eyes and see the music and be totally enveloped and, just totally 1,000% captivated by the imagination of the improvisation and of the abandon that the band seemed to carry by just their willingness to, you know, communicate on another level, and, it was really very, very, very meaningful to me, and, I went back and I think, like, we had Starship Records and tapes, 11th and Delaware in Tulsa, and, Weir was always more fun than a frog in a glass of milk. That sounds like a weird is that something that Bob Weir says, um, TARDIS writer 613 did yeah, I mean, Bobby was Bobby was such a I mean, I Bobby was such a fun character. He was such a fun character, and he wasn't my most favorite Dead member, and initially, he was sort of inconsequential, and initially, I didn't even like Bobby all that much. I didn't like Bobby's songs. I didn't like Bobby's voice over Jerry's, like, Jerry's was just so soulful, and, and I kinda was confused by how did they pl how did that I was confused by Bobby, like, it was just too sophisticated for me to really appreciate, and, or, I maybe I dismissed him as, I don't know, like a peer almost, He seemed like the imposter among them a little bit, Like, he just he didn't seem like he belonged there as much as, like, Kreutzmann or Pigpen or, Jerry or, Phil. They all seemed to be, like, so much more, um, you know, just older and furrier and somehow seeming to have more wisdom, and it was Bobby, this little sort of, jester that I don't know, he just seemed like he didn't quite initially, that was my initial, very, very initial impression of him, and he was so good looking, and so young, so full of youth and vibrancy, and, um, so it took me a lot of years to figure out Bob, but, I was just, like, all in on Jerry and Pig and Phil, and Bobby too, but, I got a phone call coming in, just a second. I'm gonna have to take this a little bit later. Anyway, um, anyway, we just started collecting tapes, and at our little Starship Records and Tapes in Leaventon, Delaware, it was our little head shop, and they had imports. That's where we got all our CDs, and I think by then we were in on the CDs, and, like, we used to get, like, European imports, and we paid a lot for them, and we learned about, Egypt, '78, we learned about, you know, Cornell, '77, and we learned about, Primal Dead, and we learned about, and that year around that time too, they were on MTV, that video, Touch of Grey was on the MTV, you kind of knew who they were a little bit, but, I was in that generation where, like, there was a big comeback, there was, like, tie-dyes were, like, all the thing, and, like, it was, like, there was 420 and Cypress Hill, and it was all, like we just grew up with, like, in 5th grade, it was, like, "Just say no," and then in, like, ninth grade, it was like, "Just say yes," essentially, and for me, it was like the Doors. The Doors sort of opened that door interestingly. They really did open that door. Um, I gotta take Andros and Andora's Revenge says, "Saw Rat Dog a couple of times at the New Daisy in Memphis around 1996, about 2,000 seats. They played Blackbird and Cassidy." Wow, man, amazing. Cassidy, one of the most amazing songs. My One of my very best friends, Andrea, who I host the Dog Log with, or excuse me, who I host the Ridiculous podcast with, who's on my channel from time to time. Her daughter's name is Cassidy, and her Cassidy's dad is a very good friend of mine, and we used to go see a lot of shows together. I never saw The Dead with him. I saw The Dead, but not with him. But I saw Fish with him a bunch of times, and of course, Fish, inherited this legacy. But I was, if anybody wants to come and talk about Bob, I welcome to hear your stories and your takes, and, send me a I'll pull up my send me a DM on Instagram, and I'll send you a link. Let me grab my, Instagram, and I'll drop it here in the comments. But, it's funny because we had, like, "Inspiration, move me brightly, sa 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 da da, often da da da." More than this I can da 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 da. Man, yeah, inspiration, moving brightly. You know, I I met this, like, when we grew up in high school, it was like the the punks and the hippies. That was essentially the delineation, and the jocks. It was the punks and the hippies. I know that it was, like, a little bit different, maybe in the '60s and '70s, but when in the '90s, when I was in high school, it was like the punks and the hippies, and I liked them both, and I so much music that I loved were in both of these worlds, you know? I found, you know, Dead Milkmen and Pavement and, Pixies and Mudhoney, um, Dinosaur Jr. and, like, Sonic Youth, like, I loved them as much as I loved, like, Fish and the Dead, and, I don't know, all of that sort of 90 like, Horde, Blues Traveler and, um, the Almonds and the kinda country ro I just loved it all, and I didn't really love the fact that there was this sort of, like, the punks and the skaters versus, like, the hippies and the hacky sackers. I just liked them all, and, anyway, we, me and my buddies, like, we used to go camping and, we'd bring a bunch of, festivities with us, and we would just, stay up all night, and we'd listen to live Dead tapes, and one of our friends had his own little festivity operation going on, and one day, it was all gone. He had a whole little garden on the roof of his house, and, and one day it was gone, and, he couldn't really confront his parents about it and say like, "Hey, where did my little Grove station go?" And so he went out to the trash collector one day, and he said, "Hey, did you happen to see, like, a bunch of pots and plants get thrown out in the trash?" And, uh And the trash collector was like, "Yeah, I did, and I got it back I got it it's all at my house." And my high school friend was like, Really?" And he said, "Yeah, man, you should come around, I've taken good care of what you started." And believe it or not, we befriended the trash collector, and all these high school kids used to go I can't believe this story. We used to go over to the trash collector's house, Tom the trash man, and he had a wall of tapes. He had a wall of, like, hundreds of shows, and he used to trade us shows, and he was so funny. Tom the trash man, he would say, "What's shaking? Hey, man, what's shaking?" And I still to this day, I still say that phrase from him. Um And he just turned us on to all those early shows, and then it was like you'd find songs that weren't on albums, and you'd be like, "Oh," and then you'd find, like, shows that were better than albums, like, much better than albums, and then you realize, "Oh, it's not about the albums, it's about the shows." And then when we were I see you guys in here, I wanna say hello to you guys, and then I'm gonna come back and keep going off here. So my homie Bryce in the house. Inspiration moved me brightly. Rest in peace, Bob. Sad I wrote off the Dead for so many years. First concert my wife and I went to together. They played Box of Rain. I nearly cried. I just bawled my eyes out, which is why I came on the stream today because I was taken back to 1995 in the summer when I was on the telephone with my curly Q telephone with the little rotary dial, and my friend Aaron Brown called me and said, "Dude, Jerry's gone." And I was like, "Wow, damn, I hope I can keep it together on this stream." But it was just such it meant so much that music meant so much to me, and he just I don't know, it was like whoa, it was like this, yeah, it's just like, it's just kind of like, sorry, um, like, this band of brothers, like a band, like a real band. That was the first time that I kinda, like I saw the sum of all the parts. I mean, yeah, every band has it, and, maybe the Beatles had it in space. Let me turn off my autofocus for just a second, it's bouncing all around. Let me set it. It should be okay. Oh, sorry. Give me a second. That'll be okay. And, but you just saw that, like, each one of these, members, like, carried a different, talent. It was like a superhero team, they all had, like, a different thing that they could do, and, it was like, yeah, it was, very cool and inspiring, and, yeah, I wanted to say about the punk thing real quick is that, like, I was in Nepal, in around 2004, and there was a dude on the Freak Street. Freak Street was this famous street in Kathmandu, in Darbar Square, just off of Darbar Square, where all these hippies used to go in the '60s, and they used to find, like, Thai stick and this kinda stuff, you know, and drink chai and learn about, Bom Shiva Shankar and, like, these kinds of things, and, I there was a guy, like a British guy with a mohawk, with, like, a spike, mohawk and, like, spikes all over him and, like, studded leather like, motorcycle jacket and big combat boots and, like, tight jeans and holes and zippers and stuff, and he was, like, old. He was, like, an old hardcore real deal punk, and he loved the Dead, and I was like, "What? This doesn't make sense," you know? I I don't know if I'm kind of conflating a bunch of memories, but if they're all, like, kinda coming together, but he insisted that the Dead were like a punk band, and when he said that, I was like, "Oh, they are, they totally are. They're a proto-punk band, they were a DIY band before there was punk." I mean, um they just had that spirit. They had that punk ethos and that punk spirit, I think. They had something of that, and the way that they just never surrendered their values and just stayed so true and pure to the music and to their ideals and to I'm so bad at this. I just 'cause I'm so sentimental, I get it from my mother. But, there's a scene in, I think it's on, is it Pineapple Express? No, that's not it. It's the what's it called? It's the Something Express. I'm getting yeah, it's the Canadian movie, the Canadian Woodstock thing where they got on the train. I think it's that movie. It might be a hotel room and it's not on the train, but there's a scene where Jerry's getting asked about if, like, the money, and Jerry he gets insulted. Somebody's like, "Yeah, you guys are rich or something." And Jerry, like, gets in this guy's face and he's like, "You think I'm rich?" He's like, "You gonna tell me I'm rich to my face? Listen here, man. I got something to tell you." And you just see Jerry in a light you've never quite seen before, and he's like and, he says, "There's a lot of people who are connected to this thing, man. You got a lot of gall to come in here and claim that, like, we're out here trying to make a buck. We're just trying to, like, you know, make the world a better place. We're just trying to, like, the money that we get as artists, you know where it goes? It goes back to the artist, you know? You know how much money ends up in my pocket at the end of the day? I tell you, it's like you have no clue. It's like, you don't get it, man. That's not what it's about. It's about, power of the people really is what he's saying essentially, and it's just fucking cool. It's really cool. And, God, I don't think I can hold it together for this. So I welcome anybody who can, like, come and help me out here. I welcome you. I'm gonna try to catch up on some of these comments. Ninja Cat Matt in the house. I know Ninja Cat's a big deadhead. Hey, Gary Harris, nice to see you. I'm just kind of grieving a little bit about about the loss of Bob Weir, and I wanted to, like, it reminded me of when I lost when Phil was gone and when Jerry was gone, and, I just, I don't wanna feel like I don't wanna come across as, like, an opportunist of somebody who wants to, like, stream just after the I don't know what that's called, but, like, I just wanna if anybody has any stories or they wanna share about Bob, I just wanna, like, provide that. Maybe I'm not the right person to do it, but maybe there's somebody else here in this world who loves the Dead more than me, and I'm sure heaps more and has seen ton more shows. I haven't so but, I just thought if nobody does it, I will. And if somebody wants to, hang out and take a stream over and, you're most welcome to. Should I be checking my let me add this here. Um, so anyway, Tom the Trash Man, here's the link to my Instagram. I put it in the chat. Okay, I see a lot of comments. If anybody wants to, chat about Bob, send me a DM and I'll send you the link. But, in year after year in high school, we just got more and more and more into them, and it was, like, through them that we found everybody else. It was through them that we got into, the Almonds or, um, God, just, like, who else? I mean, you could even say, like just, like, so many other bands. I mean, even, like, Jimmy and Cream and, um, it just, like, I can't like, The Byrds and Jefferson Airplane and, great Woodstock, and just everybody who, like, was at Woodstock. That was a you knew about it, but it wasn't, like, from Jimmy that I got to Jerry, it was, like, from Jerry that I got to Jimmy. That's essentially what happened. Anyway, um, and you guys all know the story. It's basically the story is this, like, Jerry's playing in the jug band, he's playing banjo, and he's playing, like, what we call Americana now. He's playing folk and bluegrass and jug band music, right? And then he's, like, from Marin County, Mazzy will know this story better than anybody, probably, and, he's working at a guitar shop. I think his both his parents are musicians. He's Garcia, he's got that name, so I think I don't really know that whole background, but he's living in kind of, lower middle class San Francisco, on New Year's Eve, I think it was, like, Bobby and they were out playing shows, and Bobby used to go to the shows, and maybe they're, like, coffee house type shows, and then, Jerry's name was already out there, he was quite a player, and, um and, I heard it was, like, a New Year's Eve, like, Bob was behind the music store where Jerry worked and heard music coming from inside the music store, and they're, like, out back having a smoke or something, and Jerry just, like, basically invited him in. Maybe by that point, Bob was already taking, like, guitar lessons from him, and Bobby was, like, 16 or 17, and Jerry was, like, 19 or 21 or 22 maybe, a few years older, and Jerry just, like, took him in, and they before you knew it, they were writing songs, and they were like little buddies, and it was sort of like a, frick and frack situation, and, you know, I don't know much about these guys, but I just like, the archetype of those of that sort of Tom and Jerry kind of deal, Abbott and Costello, Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote, they were just like 2 characters, and they played off of each other so great. Anytime you see them, like, in later years, like, even, like, on Letterman, they're so funny together, and Bobby's really funny. Jerry's funny because he's just goofy and cute, and he just laughs with his whole body. He's just like a goofball, but Bobby was funny. He was properly sharp, and, the one I'm thinking of right now is, like, did you see the one where he gets asked, it made the rounds not too long ago, but he says, like, "Hey, has success gone to your head?" And Jerry instantly says, "Yes, yes, it has. Yes, it has." And Bob says, "Let me answer this one." And he says, they're on, like, it's like a press conference, and Bobby says, I used to eat those pistachios that are really hard to open? I don't bother with those anymore." I just thought that was so funny. I don't bother with those anymore. Anyway, he was just really, really, um, you know, properly ornery, properly insubordinate, like a cheeky, like, properly cheeky, and oh god, I don't think I can do this, but, like, w he played you know let me get through some comments here. Um, Sadly, I was dogmatic about the whole punk rock thing for a while. Good music is good music. But again, like, the Dead were like a DIY band. They had a punk ethos. Jeff Golfer saw the Dead and the band June 21st, 1984 in Toronto. Amazing show. That is so cool, dude. Dead in a foreign land, that's really, really cool. I saw the Dead about 10 times with Jerry, like, back in the day. We basically ran away from home to go on Dead tour, We did our best to go see the Dead, and I got real lucky, and thank freaking God my parents didn't, like, "No, you are not," to me. We were feral, you know, we just left, and I don't even know if we told them, you know, we just left in a Volkswagen, in a 1974 orange Volkswagen van. I was Captain Trips at the steering wheel, and we had the sticker on the back of the thing that said, "Who are the dead and why are they following us?" And we drove like a band of gypsies across the country to seeing the Dead. It was amazing. And there was a bunch of us. There was, like, it wasn't just me, we had a whole caravan, proper caravan. It was awesome. It was so fun. It was just, like, the greatest. And, God, I one of my first shows wasn't my first show, but one of my first shows, I saw The Dead in, Atlanta, and I was, like, in the 4th row. I was, like, right there, and I didn't even understand how lucky I was, and, like, there was they had the like, you know, the lights were, like, coming down on the guys, and they were like deity. I know that they never wanted that, and it's wrong for me to sort of, like, project that upon them, but that's what it felt like. It felt like I was seeing, like, something from heaven, and Jerry was in he was in a rough state. I couldn't, you know, it didn't matter. You know, it was just I mean, that's how rabid we were for the Dead. We just loved them so much, idolized them, you know, probably to a disgusting, gross, you know, fault, possibly. But the guy next to me was screaming at the top of his lungs for, like, the entire show, "Let it grow, Bobby! Let it grow, Bobby!" I couldn't he was, like, screaming it so loud, he wanted to play I can't even remember if they played it or not. Kinda think they did "Let It Grow," a famous Bobby tune. But, it's just a very funny memory that I have. Okay, yeah, and I got and you mentioned, somebody mentioned seeing Rat Dog in Memphis. I saw The Dead in Memphis at the Pyramid, and that was one of the most incredible musical memories of my life. There was 2 moments in that show that, one of them was, Tennessee, Tennessee, ain't no place I'd rather be. Baby, won't you carry me back to Tennessee? That was incredible. And then they played Candyman, and Candyman had a moment where, you know, "Won't you tell everybody you meet that the Candyman's in town?" And Jerry, like, held his hand up, and he was like fucking the crowd was just, like, so electrified. It was crazy, the charisma and the power that they wielded over this audience. It was just unforgettable. Truly, truly unforgettable. And it was the next summer that Jerry was gone, or was it that summer? It was either that summer or the next summer that he was gone, and I just remember the phone call, and, I remember we went all down to the Arkansas River, and we all had, like, a big drum set, a bunch of hippies showed up, and, like, I properly you know, I grieved for, like I don't know if I'd like, it was like it was, like, the only other grief I had experienced up until that point was, you know, like, my grandparents passing, so it was formative. And now I'm just like all of those memories are flooding back. Um, so I just want to pay a little tribute to Bob. Sorry, some more comments. We all saw it coming. It's impossible to feel the loss though. Yeah. Love is real, not fade away. Yeah, famously, not fade away. Isn't that's who's not fade away? Help me out. It's the Big Bopper, is it not? It's oh my God, I'm embarrassed. I can't. Who's not fade away? It's is it Jerry Lewis? It's not Jerry Lewis. It's Buddy Holly. Is that this it's Buddy Holly? Buddy Holly's not fade away, right? And that's so cool. Like if it's yeah, I'm sure it's Buddy Holly. Like how cool is it that they had you know, there's a scene in Bittersweet Motel, the fish documentary. I really recommend you watch it. Um, a really cool a really cool story about a behind the scenes look at the band Fish, and Trey is getting asked he's driving in this Zuzu Trooper, which is just kinda funny, and he's out on his farm in Vermont, and it's snowy outside, and there's an interviewer in the back seat, and he says to him, like, "How do you feel about inheriting the legacy of the dead?" You know, and he so dismisses it, like, emphatically says, "I'm not the dead, I don't have anything to do with the dead. I love the dead. I love the dead, but I am not gonna be the next Jerry Garcia. I didn't grow up on Del McCroy," and he mentions, like, 2 other bluegrass or, like, country and western, like, players and singers. He's like, "I didn't grow up on that. I grew up at the mall, you know, listening to the Kiss and whoever else, and Genesis and whoever, and accept it. That is also part of the American musical history." That's what he says, the tapestry of musical, you know, American music or something like that. But how cool is it that you know, I mentioned this on a recent stream that, like, Coltrane and Miles and Del McCroy and Buck Owens and, like, Elvis, how cool is it? And the Beatles were, like, influential to the dead. I mean, the Beatles almost contemporaries, but, like, you know, I don't even know who they would have listened to. I mean, Trini Lopez, maybe. That's like maybe somebody Jerry, you know, I don't know who you guys will know better than me who but it's cool just that that connects us. Our love for this band connects us without us even knowing to a band, you know, from before that. So, I mean, Buddy Holly, I didn't grow up on Buddy Holly. I mean, my mom did. My mom, she does this thing. She talks about, like, doing the twist and stuff. And, even though she's not that old, but I think, like, they were already, like the '50s were already nostalgic by the '70s or whatever. So, anyway, Not Fade Away, yeah. That was great, that cover. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going for it for sure, yeah. Only drummers left now, yeah, drumming breeds longevity. Yeah, interesting comment. Yeah, we have Mickey Hart and, Bill Kreutzmann. I think Bill my friend Reed Mathis plays with Billy and the Kids, and I think Jeff Franca from, Thievery Corporation is also connected with Billy, Kreutzmann. And yeah, probably living in Hawaii and all of that, you know, global perspective that Mickey Hart has, maybe that does good for you. Gotta go. Take care, Ninja Cat Matt. Bob Weir died, I know. Super bummer, Final Vertigo. I'm gonna try to catch up on these comments. Second song of the show was Jerry singing, "They Love Each Other." That's like gotta be another cover from the '50s, maybe. Is that I don't know. They love each other. I need to go back and revisit a lot of these kind of, slightly obscure songs. The Dead had a huge discography, or excuse me, a huge repertoire. They didn't have a huge discography, although the discography is not insignificant. It's a good 20 albums, and I don't know them all. Like, I think I know them, but They Love Each Other, I know it, but it's, like, only from it being in the ether of the Dead. I don't really know, you know, there's a whole bunch of these songs. I mean, The Greatest Story Ever Told, Samson Delight. I know they ended up on tunes. I was listening to Looks Like Rain this morning. God, that's a pretty song. Looks Like Rain. I'm gonna write poetry with the letters from your name. I'm gonna write poems made of words from the letters of your names. It's, like, so sweet and endearing. And Bobby was just, like, such a you know, he was the pretty boy of the band, the only pretty boy, the only halfway decent looking, uh, member of the band. They were all, you know, little they were all monsters, you know, with, like, broken teeth and, like, crooked smiles and just, like, none of them were lookers except for Bob. And, you know, just he had those boyish good looks and, like, that long hair, and he was fit, and he always cared about fitness. I thought Bobby would go on for a long time. He was doing those exercises with the stretchy things, and he was doing the balls. He was like, you know, you're like, "Oh, man, he's gonna go on a long time." I bet you all of that, I bet you it caught up with him. They say that, like, you know, when you do a lot of that stuff in your young I keep hearing that when you do a lot of stuff in your young age, it shaves off. Even if you're in great health, when you get to be, you know, elderly, it's still it shaves years off. So, Yeah, DJ Vonnegut. The film you're talking about is Festival Express, not Pineapple Express, Festival Express. Thank you. About the it was a great movie, the Woodstock of Canada, basically. The Bob Weir film is called The Other One. I never saw that one. I'd like to see that one, though. Um, influential cat, Bobby, very much so. Yeah, I mean, again, like, back to this idea of, like, music connecting you without you really knowing to music that came before you, and Coltrane. Bobby always talks about McCoy Tyner. And, I don't really know so well about this stuff, but, like, Bobby is apparently, like, one of the most underrated guitar players. He's a rhythm guitar player, but he plays, like, this crazy syncopated, like I if you listen to, like, Bobby's isolated guitar playing, it's weird. It's very you would never think of, like, to come up with these strumming patterns. And they're filled with licks, he was a soloist too, but he plays like he plays like a animal. It's got a real start and stop, and it's very interesting, but you don't hear it because, you hear people talk about George Harrison and about those early, um, Beatles records, and, like, George didn't play any extra notes. George isn't known as a particularly virtuosic guitar player, but sort of like Ringo isn't exactly, a virtuosic drummer, but it was just what the song asked for, it was just what it needed, and, I think Bob's playing was something like that, and probably the jazz players too. It was like, just because there's an empty spot doesn't mean that you have to fill it, and it takes a certain amount of restraint to really know your craft. I mean, it takes when you really know your craft, you know that it's not constant. It takes all of that, give and push and pull. Neil Young did, yeah, Neil Young did Not Fade Away. Buddy Holly is, I think, we're talking about, yeah. Better to fade out than to fade away. Okay, Grasshopper makes, yeah. Neil Young pulls that from Buddy Holly too, yeah. It's better to burn out than to fade away. What is that? Hey, hey, my. This one's always confused me because I like, which is better? Is it better to burn out or is it better to fade away? I think Neil actually gets asked in that, Rick Rubin, he says, like, "Are you condoning a rock and roll lifestyle? Are you condoning, sex, drugs, and rock and roll when you say it's better to burn out than to fade away?" And he says, like, "No, man, burning out is like rock and roll. Now, if you wanna talk about rock and roll, then burnout is the way to go. But if you wanna talk about life," and he makes a distinction, and he's got some perspective. He's like, he's got a few extra decades behind him, after he wrote these lyrics. So, man, yeah. Oh, Neil is reflecting on the Buddy Holly song. Okay, yeah, interesting. Yeah, DJ Vinyl Virgo's fully right. Hey, James Farley, nice to see you. I'm just kind of, grieving a little bit. So Bobby gets, with Jerry, and Jerry is like he's got kinda like he's like a shy person, essentially. I mean, if you look at him, it's not that he's shy, but it's just like he didn't ask for any of it, he didn't want it. It was like he was touched. He got the Midas touch, and it was just his passion and you know, his passion for the instrument and his, you know ability to, like, really tune in to soul singers and soul music and soulful music and to hear it in, probably every genre of music, whether it be bluegrass and country or whether it be, like, classical music. He was transcendent, he transcended genres, I feel like. He had that touch about him 'cause you see, like, Branford Marsalis played with Jerry, and Branford talks about playing with Jerry, and he says that, "Man, that guy can play," and that guy, like, he didn't play like anybody I ever met before, and I could tell that anytime I got to go play with Jerry, he was happy to play with somebody, 'cause Branford says, like, "You can imagine, like, playing with the dead," and not that they were, like, bad musicians at all, they were all very accomplished. I mean, let's go through them real quick here. I mean, Pigpen was like a soul, he's like a did he grow up in the gospel? Did he grow up a gospel singer, essentially, and a blues singer? Loved Muddy Waters and Howlin' Wolf and, could only play the harmonica, and he's not bad on the keys, but he's not great on the keys, but he could play the harmonica, and he was a good front man, right? Then you got Kreutzmann. I don't know where Kreutzmann's musical chops come from. He just probably is he's like a he's like a garage rock and roll player. Mickey Hart kinda comes and goes a couple of times in the band. We'll skip him for a second. Phil Phil is a violin or viola player. He grows up like he's the most steeped in musical literacy. He's the guy who studied classical music the most. Maybe isn't, um, what's the word? It's not as intuitive for Phil per se as it is to maybe Jerry. Maybe Jerry doesn't can't read it and know it academically or like, technically as well as Phil can, but Jerry can feel it, maybe more than Phil can, where Phil can kinda read like my wife, she can read music and she's got perfect pitch. She doesn't jam. She doesn't know how to jam, and, but Phil, like, he had this nickname, like, what was it? The Electric Spark or something? Jolt, they called him or something, Sparky or something. He was like Live Wire, I think it was something like that. He was known as sort of a spastic dude, and Jerry was like when he was sort of formulating the ingredients of this dead, he was like, "Okay, we need that guy can play." I love that scene in, High Fidelity where he's, Jack no, not High Fidelity, School of Rock, where Jack Black, he's telling the girl who's playing cello, he's like, "Okay, you see this cello here? You just turn it sideways and cello, you have a bass," or something like I love that bit. Cello, bass guitar, and, so you got Phil, and then yeah, Bobby's like, he's the, extra. He's the extra wheel that you kinda I don't know, but essential. Maybe a glue that bound the whole thing together, probably. Can you I mean, I kinda work with somebody who is, you know, a visionary kind of person, and they're sometimes their worst, enemy, and they need a no person, you know? They need a partner in crime sometimes. They need just somebody to balance out that genius, and, man, Bobby really he did it really well, I thought, and I just and when Jerry passed 'cause, he was tapped into all of the, like he he was on board. Yeah, I mean, to say that, like, he didn't he wasn't formative, or to say that he was a hanger-oner or he didn't deserve to be there, so I mean, he was a very, very founding member and driving force. Um, I think these guys who, like, basically wanted to dose all of society, there was that did you guys know that movie? There's, like, a documentary about LSD back in the days, and, like, there was, like, one group of, the mind-bending liberation acid army or something, I don't know what they were called, but, like, they wanted to, like, dose the water stream with, like, 1,000,000,000 hits of water, and they thought that if they dosed the entire world, it would be, like, a better place. I wonder if they may have been onto something, but Jerry and was you could tell, like, he was in cahoots with, like, maybe the Timothy Leary kinda people and the Allen Ginsberg kinda people, and, I just yesterday watched the movie Raga, which is a documentary about Ravi Shankar, and holy cow, you ever seen this movie, Raga? I was, I'm gonna do the Beatles tag, I'll give myself away here for a second, but it was asking about, like, one of the records on the Apple label that's not the Beatles, and I know that Shankar is on the Apple label, and I pulled out a copy of Raga, and sure enough, it's on the, Apple label. It's the soundtrack for the documentary Raga, which I hadn't seen in a very long time, and, it's the whole story of, like, basically, it was Apple saying, "Let's make a movie about Ravi Shankar," and oh god, I hope I don't lose myself in this, but Ravi Shankar comes to Golden Gate Park, and he has this sort of existential question about whether or not he should teach the West about Indian music because you just can't dig it, man, and, kinda riff on it. It's deep. It has roots, like, you can't it deserves honor and respect, and you can't just put it in a pop song, and that's not okay. And when it has this heritage that goes back hundreds, if not thousands of years, and so, it's cultural. So he's asking himself, but he's got this student, George Harrison, who maybe is this vehicle, not to use per se, but it's like, it's a way to spread the love of Indian music around the world, and it fucking sp I if you go back and watch these documentaries of, Ravi playing in Golden Gate Park, there are tens of thousands of people, and they are cheering so loud, and they all want to learn how to play sitar, and they're all, like, looking for enlightenment, and they're all like it was a bit and it all went away somehow. Um but as the documentary is, like, filming the audience in Golden Gate Park, there's Jerry Garcia and Mountain Girl and Trixie. They're I don't even know if they're aware, the filmmaker is aware that unshaven Jerry and, um, and Mountain Girl are in the film as, like, extras or, in the audience. It's really interesting. And, I almost wanna pull up the film for you, but, um Jerry, what I wanted to say is that, like, maybe you could just tell that moment in '60s, in the summer of love or, like, people were trying to, you know, trying to make change and trying to change consciousness and culture and trying to make it was like a mood, it was a sea change, the age of Aquarius, it was like people were really turned on, and Bobby was very much a part of that. To say that he was just like a little ornery guy, a little baby face, and the good-looking kid is to dismiss that he was part of that change. He was part of making the culture, and I just wanted to salute that, and there was a moment in Jerry's wake where Bob, he's basically tasked with, speaking on Jerry's behalf because Jerry was this idol to so many people, and Bobby isn't an idol, he just didn't have that, and he could see that, like, I'm sure he could see being so close, how much that hard that must have been for Jerry to be an idol to people, and, um, and for him to be free of that, but there's just this physical gesture that sort of encapsulates I don't even know if I can really talk about it, but he's at the park, I think. He's at the big at the wake of Jerry in Golden Gate Park or wherever it is, and he does this thing where he says, like, "Jerry," y and he does this motion, and he just opens his heart up to the universe and everything, it's this kind of thing, and, in the and that was 30 years and he was tasked with, deciding, and then the new reluctant leader of the band. I mean, even Phil or Bill, maybe had more, um, you know, I don't know how to put it, piloting skills than Bobby, Bobby was like you know, a passenger. Forgive the pun, you know? I don't think he ever planned to drive the ship, and but he, um, he accepted that role, and for these last 30 years, I think he did a really good job of, uh, carrying on that legacy in a couple of different forms. There was the other ones, and then there was Phil and Friends, and then there was Rat Dog, and then there was you know, these latest iterations of the Dead and John Mayer and all of that, and, you know, and it changed, and it evolved into something else, and then I think I know that some of you guys, like, love the Dead, and some of it's like cilantro, like, you don't have the gene or something, or you don't have the, like, the those of us who, like, it clicks, it's like physical, it's like physiological. I don't know why, but it's like, for those of us who, like, it clicks, um, I think somehow it's like you can appreciate that, like, the music is, like, bigger than the band. The music is, like, bigger than the scene, it's bigger than, um, time. I think you look at, like, a Mozart or a Bach or a Beethoven, and that's an example of, like, music that transcends, um, you know, we're still listening to it. I think it's still teaching us because, like, um, I will I'll be playing somebody else's song on the piano, like, like, I can't read music, but I know the chords. I know all the notes, and I know all the chords. I can't, like, read musical notation. I know the notes and the staff, but I can't read them fast enough to, like, be able to play music, but I can read complicated chord structures, C sharp minor 7th diminished. I know kind of these, and if I don't know them, then I can look them up in my chord book, but they follow a formula, and, um and when people write music, they don't, they don't it's very hard to explain, but, like, if the third of, you know, like, a chord is, like, comprised of, like, basically a root, a fifth, and then, like, maybe a third. And the third and a fifth note in the scale, right? The scale has, like, 8 notes, and, like, in the fifth and the root, those 2 together are, like, the building blocks for a chord. Then the third decides if it's gonna be this kind of chord or that kind of chord. And, um and then there's everything else after that. But those are the kind of initial building blocks of, like, a chord. And let's say, like, a major chord is, like, the 1st, 3rd, and 5th, okay? So it's, like, 1, 3, 5. And to make it a minor chord, the 3rd just has to go down a half step. So it's like a first, a close 3rd, and then a 5th. It's modified, it's tweaked just a little tiny bit. And that's written one way, a C major is written one way, and a C minor is written another way. But when somebody goes to write music, they don't write music, and they don't think, "We'll go from C major to go to C minor." They go, "Let's move the 3rd down to a minor. Let's walk down. Let's walk this little part of the chord down somewhere, or let's walk it up somewhere, or let's travel from one place to another place." And if you could read music like I can, then maybe it would make sense. You would see the line that would be drawn there. But I can only read the words, and, um, and it will tell me some complicated chord, and then it will tell me some other complicated chord, and then it will tell me another complicated chord. And if I tried to play those 3 words together, I might fail to recognize that it actually, "Oh, it's only one thing that's changing in all of them." Rather than, like, rebuilding this entire word, this entire chord in 3 different ways, I all I need to do is just move one little part of it. And you see the Beatles do this all the time. They, like, walk down things. Things get walked down from here, they go ta 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 or ta 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 ta, and if you articulate them as chords, they look really complicated. But if you're just sitting at a piano playing, They're real lovely and simple. They're, like, super simple, and they're recognizable. They're recognizable patterns, and they say the Beatles say, I think that they get them from Bach. They come all of them come from Bach. They're like, "Oh, this is Bach used to do this all the time." And it's just like you hear Paul McCartney talk about, "Oh, yeah, that da 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 or da 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 da," or Tony Iommi says, like, that he just reversed da 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 da. He just played da 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 to get some famous Zeppelin or some famous Sabbath tune or something like this. They're all pulling from, like, Bach, and I just think that the music of Bach and the ideas of Bach are more timeless than Bach himself. I don't even know what Bach looks like barely. I wouldn't be able to pick him out in a lineup, and I have no idea what kind of person he was. I know nothing about him. I don't know where he's from. I know nothing about him, but I know his music and the signature of his music, you know? And I think the Dead, they made maybe you'll disagree with me, and that's okay if you want to, but, like, the ideas are there, whether or not the notation or the notes fall in the most harmonic places for your ear, but the ideas that the Dead came up with are I think they'll live long after them, and I think John Mayer is a perfect example of and just Jerry's passing is an exa and the Beatles passing as well, John Lennon's passing. I think they are examples about how music lives on after the people are gone. I guess all music is that way, but, um, yeah, I guess all music really is that way. That's a oh my god, I forgot about your comment, sorry. Okay, oh, there's some more here. What just the last thing, like, I think Bobby what I was trying to say is that when Jerry passed, I was like, Bobby carried on the music. He stayed, he was committed to carrying on. Didn't matter that Jerry was gone, it was like he just they could have wrapped the band up, it could have been over, but it was important that the music live on, the music never stopped, you know? And, um, and now that Bobby's gone, and there's all these young players that are playing this music, and that there's a whole new world of dead music. It's not dependent anymore on Bob Kreutzmann or on Mickey Hart. I don't even think they hardly play in those shows anymore, and yet this music is still, beloved. So, um, Bobby's gone, Jerry's gone, Phil's gone, the front line's gone, you know? Robert Hunter. Oh, man. And John Perry Barlow, who was Bob's writing partner, is gone. They're all gone, but the music's still here. Yesterday, I scored a record. I don't e I should know this one, but I don't know it. Robert Hunter, Tiger Rose. I feel like I should know that song. Sampler for Deadheads. Look at that round record. Look how beautiful that label is. And then on the B side, Phil Lesh and Ned Logan? Sea Stones? I've never heard this. 500 yen. It says, I got it at, Downtown Records, a first visit yeah, a first visit. It says I can't read it, but it says Robert Hunter, Phil Lesh, and Ned Logan. I never heard of 'em. Sampler for Deadheads, excellent US promo only, blah, 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 blah. I'm not sure what it else says here. Dead no. Something, something, Cap the Capri something, I can't read it all. Something, something EP. Japanese call it EP, they call 7 inches EPs, so I'm very excited about that, but oh, Bob Weir, rest in peace, Bob Weir. We I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about some of Bobby's fashion sensibilities. Oh, Bobby. Man, Bob was I wanna say he was a dork, but he kinda wasn't. maybe he'll be vindicated, sort of like George Costanza has been vindicated a bit. Have you seen these, like, blogs that show, like, what George Costanza was wearing, like, in Seinfeld episodes, and they show he's wearing, like, a LL Bean jacket and a very posh and hip watch and loafers or something, like, somebody's going back and, like, he's influencing, fashion nowadays. Bob famously, like, maybe he was the first dead member to, like, cut his hair or something. Or maybe he was the first one who, like, put on a collared polo shirt. He was wearing Izod shirts, like, in the '70s, and all the guys were wearing, like, T-shirts and looking like schlubs, and Bob, like, embraced the preppy look, but he also wore, like, you know, like, Daisy Duke, cut off jean shorts and, like, little flip-flops and pink Ibanez guitars, and there's a couple of fashion choices where you're like, interesting. The ponytail, the, like, mullet ponytail. Then when he got older, it was like he changed to the cowboy hat, and the big old beard, and the serape, and the poncho, and then he was famously, like, wearing the Birkenstocks all the way until the end, probably. The Birkenstocks with the poncho, not a good look, I'd say. Not really a good look. Um, Bobby, but unapologetic, just like, "This is who I am." There's the thumbnail that I used for this, he's got some cool, like, Hollywood glasses, like the two-tone glasses that kind of fade. I wanna get a pair of those. I've never had a pair. What do those have a name? They're like, only Hollywood people wear these? He's in Egypt. They went to Egypt, right? Well, I was talking about the Wall of Sound yesterday. Did they take the Wall of Sound? I don't think they took the Wall of Sound to Egypt, but the Wall of Sound, another punk thing to do, even though it doesn't seem like punk. They were all about that was for the audience. That was, like, to make the craziest experience for that. That was staying true to an idea, staying true to it didn't matter how much it cost. It didn't matter how much money we're gonna lose on it. It's not it deserves it deserves to be this way. So, there's no other way to do it, and fuck it if it kills us. We're gonna do it because there's a right way and a wrong way, and we're gonna do it the right way. That's punk. But then around the same time as the Wall of Sound, they went to, Egypt. They famously went to Egypt in '78, and I don't know why, but, like, we were obsessed with Egypt. It's like dinosaurs, like all preteen kid like, as soon as you learn about Egypt and Egyptology and hieroglyphics and the Sphinx, it's like, yeah, it's like buried treasure, it's very piratey kind of, it's very mysterious and cool, and we all wanted to go to Egypt. I've never been to Egypt. I'd love to go to Egypt, but that's a bucket list thing for me. But they went, and I think they famously did they say they played I forgot if they played well or they didn't play well. They famously played Woodstock, and they and Jerry says, like, "We went up between" he's getting asked in an interview in, like, the '80s, like, "Didn't you play Woodstock?" And they're like, "Yes, we did." And they're like, "How come nobody knows that you played Woodstock?" And he says, "Because The Who played before us, and at the end of their set, they smashed all their instruments, and there was, like, a cloud of smoke, and then, like, Jimi Hendrix played after us," or something like this. So, we were just so forgettable between those 2 bands, and they were getting electrocuted on stage, it was raining, and, like, there was somebody decided to, like, change the grounds or something in the middle of the set, so, they were, like, literally getting electrocuted on stage. But when they went to Egypt, they they were famously, like, attacked by bats. There was apparently, like, bats everywhere, and Bob tells a funny story about how, um, it was like, yeah, the biggest memory of their time in Egypt were the bats. And, yeah, playing under the pyramids, amazing. But in that thumbnail, he's wearing the cut off shorts and those ridiculous well, not ridiculous, those kind of, too cool for school Hollywood glasses. He can own them, he's a rock star. And he's playing at the pyramids, but he's like Daisy Duke shorts all the way to the end, you know? And then, like, in the '80s, he had this whole, like, like, day glow and, like, pink and, like, turquoise and, like, Tevas and, like, mountain bikes. He had, like, some crappy mountain bikes, and he was, like yeah, he was somehow an outlier of the band. I don't think that none of them had that same bravado when it came to their look as a member of the band, and so you gotta salute Bob for that. It was pretty funny. You go back and look at some of those pictures and you're like, "Huh," but then you go back and you look at him, he's got, like, some aviators on or something, and he's just, like, looks and he's just, like, got a big old Gibson guitar, and he just looks supremely cool, and you're like, "Oh, man, this guy, he did it right. He did everything right." And I'm sure he yeah, and he died I think he had lots of kids. I don't know how many kids he had, but I think he left behind a really lovely wife. He got married in a kilt, I think. I've seen pictures of him in the kilt. Let me read some comments. Um, "Hello, Brian. Glad that your meeting went well. Thank you. Yeah, I had a really amazing meeting." Yeah, had a really, busy couple days. Um, I don't know if I'm gonna get into it right now. I really wanna focus on Bob, but yeah, I did have a great meeting. Thanks, Crystal. One of my favorite albums of all time is Terrapin Station by the Grateful Dead. I know, man. What a great album. I don't own Terrapin Station. I used to own it. I don't know what happened. I can't believe I got rid of Terrapin Station. I never got rid of anything, but I had to say goodbye to a bunch of my record collection at one point. At one point, my record collection sort of I was leaving it. After I moved to Japan, I was like I left it with my friend, and every year I would come back and, like, take 50 records, and I'd be like, "I'm taking these back to Japan." And he just got after, like, the 5th time, he was like, "I don't really like it every time you come back and you take, like, 50 more records, but you leave 1,000." You know? He's like, "Maybe you should just either take them all or just leave them all." And I could not take them all. I couldn't there I had, like, 1 day, and I had no storage container, I had no car, like, I had nowhere to put them. I had no options. So, and he had a legit, grievance. So I just said, "Oh, I'll buy all these again. I'm gonna be rich someday. I'll buy all these again." And, I remember going through them and picking out, like, the last 100 records that I thought were really valuable and really meant something to me, and everything else, I was like, "I'll buy it all again someday." And I must have left Terrapin Station behind. I just can't believe it. I just can't believe it. Terrapin would not make the cut. I love Terrapin. Great record. I'm glad that you like that record, Crystal. Any love for the Kingfish Project? Only because I don't know it, Nick, at a perfect prescription. I don't know Kingfish. There's a bunch of Dead adjacent music I don't know. I probably initially would not like it because it's like any band that is so good together, like, when you go hear one of their things, the first thing you hear is, like, everybody else missing, kind of, and then maybe you hear, like, the tone of a bass, you're like, "Oh, I wonder if he brought in the bandmate from" read those Ringo albums, you hear, like, or like a John Lennon record or a Paul or a George record, you hear, like, those drums, you're like, "That must be Ringo." Um I don't know about the Kingfish Project. Tell me something about it. I've seen the record, it looks like a really cool record. The cover looks wicked cool. That's about all I can say about it. I don't know more about it than that. I think that was a project of Bob's. That was I assume Kingfish was just like another version of Rat Dog. It was like another band that he had, but tell me more. I don't know more about it. Um Some chord progressions are anticipation and then resolved. Yeah, man. Same says James Farley. Chord progression sorry to be behind on the comments, but, um, I've talked about this a little bit before, but the science, the physiological science of, like, music, why we like music there was a book about why we like music. I have a book in my bookshelf, How Music Works by David Byrne. It might be in this one, but I think it's in a different one, How Music Works, and it talks about anticipation and resolution and pattern finding. and it talks about how, like, humans and, like, evolution is so much about, like, the history of mankind is about pattern recognition and about being able to recognize that that mushroom is poisonous and that one is not, or those stripes on that snake are good, or that tiger are not good. And, the better we are at recognizing patterns, the more likely we are to survive. And, I just actually, yes, a random side note, I just listened to a Japanese scientist, what do they call it? Bird scientist. I listened to this bird scientist who listened to birds for, like, years, decades. The one specific bird, and it was a bird that goes like, it's got like 12 different calls or something like this. It sounds like a car alarm, you know? It's got like a cycle of calls, and when he was a little kid, he would mention that he was, like, really interested, "Why does it have all these calls?" And he listened to them, and he f he decoded them, and he found out that when they do this kinda sound, that means there's, like, danger, but he found there's a predator, but if there's a predator if it's a predator on the tree, it's this kinda sound, and if it's a predator on the ground, it's this kinda sound, and he tested them by putting speakers in the forest, and he made different sounds, and he would watch birds move I mean, like, he definitively determined that birds use that they have this entire language, and not only that, but they have this syntax where when they string 2 or 3 of them together or in different orders, they do different things, and he p there was a field I saw, like, a field of birds, and he played one call that went beep, 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 beep. They did nothing. Then he changed the order, beep, 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 and 1,000 birds went and flew all away. They're all, like, communicating with patterns, you know? It's not just humans, it's like the entire living world. And, music, to your point here about anticipation and resolution, is that, when we listen to music, we're anticipating, "Is this gonna resolve here, or is this not gonna resolve here?" And when it resolves, we get tickled in our brains in the same spot where, "Oh, we ate the safe food," or, "Oh, we evaded the right predator." And when it doesn't resolve, it triggers the part in our brain that says, "Oh my god, run, run, go, or get to water, or do whatever you need to do." So either way, whether they resolve or they don't, either way, we're tapping into a primal part of our pattern recognition tool, and it tickles us. It gets us off. So, um, this is one well, somebody postulated that this is one of the reasons that we love music so much. Um, gotta love Birkenstocks, essential in the hot climate. Yeah. Are they really though? The sweaty Birkenstocks? Really? You think they're great in the hot climates? I think a good old pair of, uh, you know, like Brazilian beachside flip-flops are better than the old leathery Birkenstocks. But Bobby held true to the Birkenstocks all the way to the end. We are just grieving the loss of Grateful Dead member, the last, captain of the ship, Bob Weir. We still have Bill Kreutzmann and, Mickey Hart and our new members of Dead& Co. and whoever they are, but, and forgive me for not knowing, somebody might know, but yeah, I woke up this morning to the news of Bob Weir's passing, and I was I wept, to be honest, and I've had a couple moments on this live stream where I've just been like, um, had lost for a loss of words to try to describe my feelings, but Bob meant a lot to me, and that music meant a lot to me, and it still means a lot to me. I just wanted to take a moment to honor him. With anybody else who wanted to come up and talk about Bob, I guess nobody else did, that's fine, but, I just thought, like, I know some of you out there, used to go see the Dead. I know that I saw the Dead in '94, '95. Yeah, '94 and '95, the last 2 years of the Dead. I didn't see the Dead back in '84 or '74 or even I guess the Dead came into existence 68, 67. The first Grateful Dead records, they were famously like the Warlocks before they were the Dead. Mickey Hart wasn't in the Warlocks, but I think everybody else was. And, they famously, like, opened the dictionary to a page and the story of the Dead, I think if you don't know, 'cause I got a little tidbit for you. The story of the Grateful Dead is, you'll have to look it up, and I'm just piecing it together, but, um, let's see if I can remember. It's something to the effect of it's like a parable. It's like a biblical time parable of, um, a guy who's died who owes everybody money. He's got debts coming out his ears, and, he's dead in the town in the plaza of the town, and everybody is surrounding his body, and nobody will pay for his burial because he owes everybody money. He doesn't even have money for he hasn't left any money for his own burial, and, uh, a wanderer comes upon the scene of the town overlooking the deceased and says, "What's happening?" And, the villagers tell him, "The guy's died, but he owes everybody money, and there's no money to bury him." And the wanderer, the stranger, the visitor gives the townspeople money to give the man a proper burial. And they thank the man, and they bury the dead, and the wanderer moves on to the next city. And as he's, along his journey, he encounters a cloaked person who rewards him with great fortune and leads him on a adventure of wonder and success and amazing bounty and his identity unknown. And when he finally reveals who he is, he's the deceased. He is the Grateful Dead. So, I don't know if that's just, like, urban legend or I picked that up along the way and it's nothing about I don't know where that came from, but that's in there. So, that's the story I know of the Grateful Dead. Um, you look like a Scottish fisherman. I'm getting the fisherman, it's the hat. The people are commenting. I've been called like a dock shoreman, a fellow shoreman. Yeah, it's my I mean, I admit I got it at the hardware store. I bought my hat at the hardware store. I like, uniform worker man's uniform kind of clothes. That's kinda what I like. It's got utility. I mean, this thing's got 2 pockets here, it's got 2 pockets here, it's got pockets on the inside. The hat, I don't care if I lose it, it cost me $5, it's utility. These glasses, they're not exactly stylish, but they're goggles. They're great on the motorcycle, They're, like, goggly. So, I like, utility, and, you have to kind of hipsterify it to make it cool a little bit. That's what I'm going for here. Not trying, but trying, you know? Johnny L in the house, James Farley, you guys all saying hello to each other. Sounds like a mockingbird, possibly James Farley talking about the bird here. I know you rider gonna miss you when I'm gone. Yeah, I know you rider, another famous Awesome Dead tune, famously a two-song duo, a song that's known as the sister song to another, famous Dead song, China Cat, China Cat Sunflower. Um, great song. I wish I was a headline on a northbound train. I wish I was a headline on a northbound train. So good. I'd shine a light through the cool Colorado rain. So good. So many great tunes. I just think, like, American bands, okay, who do you guys you guys are gonna say, The Byrds, The Beach Boys, Jefferson Airplane. Um, who do we have that are the modern bands? I mean, you know, Van Halen, Aerosmith, uh, um, you know I know these aren't modern bands, but I'm just, like, going through the decades here, but then you have, like, I mean, is that when you go who do you jump from to go I mean, like, I don't REM? Who do you jump from to get from, like, MTV, Bruce Springsteen, who you can't really put in that category because he's not a band, into, like, into grunge and Pearl Jam and Soundgarden and Temple Pilots and Nirvana and that kinda stuff, and then where do you go from there? Um, I think the Dead are just, I mean, the Dead, they did, "Once Upon a Time There Was an Engineer, thought about love was far and near, they played that they played that, country, and they played, Dark Star, Saint Stephen, The 11, the other one, you know, that 11, you guys ever heard that? You guys know 11? For anybody who doesn't know The Dead, and you're like, "They just never clicked with me," go listen to the suite of Dark Star, Saint Stephen, The 11. Is that the way it goes? Help me out here, Grateful Dogs. The other one, is that other one is part of that as well. Whatever that suite of songs is, man, that thing goes through like 6 insane, 12 insane movements, or Terrapin Station. Good grief. Terrapin's got a little bit of like a it's got a little bit of a shakedown 70s disc. It's got a little bit of like 70s thing going on, but maybe 70s thing is your jam. But if you want to hear something that's, I think, timeless, go listen to some Primal Dead. Go listen to some, um, I don't know. I just think they captured everything. They captured the American spirit in those, certainly in those two records, American Beauty and, I mean, let's just pull them out. What do we got here? I don't know how many I have, but I got a few. Whoa. Let's pull them out. We'll look. What do we have? I hope I can talk about them with some modicum of holy crap of knowledge. I probably am missing some very important records. Bootleg live. Let me pull this down. Let me get through these comments real quick. I don't know if you like Yes at all, but Chris Squire did a great album called Fish Out of Water that you must hear. Yeah, I like Yes. I do like Yes. I like some Yes albums better than others, but um, the only thing I can say about Yes is that I haven't heard them enough to really kind of know them back and forth. Grateful Dead is the music of the spheres. Ooh, I like that. It's a little esoteric. I dig that. Um, just listen to Fish Out of Water today, just says James Farley. Interesting. Good to see you, Brian. Sad to hear about Bob. Yeah. Isa Tsubono. Isa Tsubono. Nice to see you here. I'm happy to have you here. Yeah, just lamenting the loss of Bob Weir, second in command, our skipper, essentially, who had to take the wheel. Fish Out of Water sounds good. I listened to a couple of tracks. Okay, cool. Johnny L. Let's see. I saw the Dead only once in the '80s. They opened with Shakedown Street. Nothing else, nothing shaking on Shakedown Street. Oh my god, I have so many Dead stories. I have so many hilarious stories. Um, and they played Los Lobos. They played with Los Lobos at the Giant Stadium. Yeah, San Francisco bands. I think so. Los Lobos was from San Francisco. Yeah, great, dude, great team up, I mean, it's lucky, they're almost lucky that they got away with having a Garcia in the band. I mean, I say that, um, you know, sort of, how to put, I say it like, how unfortunate that they could have been had detractors purely for having, a band with Latin roots. Jerry Garcia's. I don't know the story of his family. Is his family from Spain? I'm sure his family's from Latin America, Mexico, probably. Maybe 10th generation, maybe third generation. No clue. But I mean, Rodriguez. Sixto Rodriguez famously, they wonder, like, "How did this guy not blow up?" Because he had a name that, unfortunately, his name was Rodriguez and not Bob Dylan. And Bob Dylan even, maybe he wouldn't have done him so well for himself if he'd kept the name Zimmerman. So, yeah, I'm glad, very happy that, Grateful Dead shares a little bit of DNA with Los Lobos and that they played together at Giant City. My favorite band, Fish, covers Circus, When the Circus Comes to Town by Los Lobos, and I love Los Lobos, and they talk about a band that just, like, oozes cool. Los Lobos, man, those guys are they didn't get their dues. Let's appreciate Los Lobos. I'm gonna go and I keep passing Los Lobos records, being like, "Oh, I used to have that. I'm gonna get that again," and then not buy uh, I'm gonna get some Los Lobos records. I wanna know Los Lobos, like, I wanna know them really well. I wanna know all their albums. I bet it's a brilliant discography. I really didn't get into the Dead music. That's okay, Johnny. Maybe I was saying it's like maybe it's a physiological thing. That's not to like, but it's like it's a gene. It's just I don't know. It clicked with me one day. I remember I talked about it at the beginning of the stream. It clicked. It just clicked with me one day. I'm more into 70s rock. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like, you know, no no nothing against like 70s rock, but it just it I don't know, 70s rock, there's something that's, like, ever so slightly, like, gratuitous about it. There's something self-serving that I feel I always kind of have to look past a little bit. Not look across the board, but just, like, there's so much great music from the '70s, like, don't get me wrong at all. But, like, there's also that just very, you know, over the overly flamboyant. I don't mean like in a gay way, I just mean like in a like overly everything, like Kiss is the perfect example. It's like it's over the top. I mean, Zeppelin was pretty over the top. I mean, even Yes got mentioned. I mean, like, um, yeah, but I mean, and I just feel like, I don't know, the '60s, it was a little bit more, I don't know. It was just like it was a younger. It was just, like, not quite formed. It wasn't necessarily trying to, like I don't know, that's my impression. Before he died, Jerry Garcia did an album with somebody which consisted of Miles Davis songs. Oh, it is so good. I have it on compact disc, but it's at my other residence right now. Okay, I don't know well about that, although I do have handy, a really interesting record by, it's called "Surrender to the Air," and it's a record, I recommend it's a listen. It's a listen. It's Marshall Allen, Trey Anastasio of Fish, Kofi Burbridge, Teal Burbridge, Damon Arquace, John Fishman, Bob Goulet, James Harvey, John Medeski, and Michael Ray. Michael Ray on trumpet, and Michael Ray is a player. He's like a killer. And Mark Ribot, Jesus Christ. I mean, these are stone cold killers. This is a free jazz record, and it takes some concentration. But I'm sure that Jerry playing with Miles inspired Trey to play with Michael Ray and these mofos. So check that one out, "Surrender to the Air." I'm guessing that not too many people know about that record. Really good one. There they are. This is the problem with the Zoom thing. Let me see if I can do this. Stone Cold Killers here. Great record. Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's like it was Bob Weir who talked about, McCoy Tyner and Counterpoint. That's what he's talking about. He's talking about playing with Miles and Coltrane. He's talking about Counterpoint, and that was the role that Bob was willing to play. You gotta have some humility, you gotta have some self-restraint to understand your place in a band when you're playing with geniuses. So, and then I guess when you get 2 geniuses together, like a Jerry and a Miles, man, that must have been explosive. That must have been really intense. I can imagine, like, Miles scoffing at Jerry's playing and maybe Jerry scoffing. I can just see maybe it was amazing, like I mentioned, Jerry famously brought Branford Marsalis out on stage a lot in the '90s, and they played, they had a trumpet player for every when like, the Bruce Hornsby era. Anyway, that's really fun to think about. Um, yeah, this is sorry, I failed to mention, yeah, this is like a tribute to Sun Ra. I've somebody mentioned I see it I see the comment pop up. Um, "How many living bandmates are left of the dead? 2, the drummers only," says Johnny L. "I only heard about Los Lobos when the song La Bamba." Yeah, Johnny, let's expand your musical horizons. I will trade you some of my musical knowledge, and you can trade me some of yours. You gotta know we all gotta know more than La Bamba. But no shade. I'm guilty too. I know La Bamba. I don't know that many. I can't even name one. I couldn't recognize them if I saw them. The one with the orange letters, the black and white one. I know a couple of those albums. There's gotta be 20 or 30, if not more. That's a Sun Ra tribute. Thank you very much for mentioning that. I failed to mention that. Surrender to the Air is a Sun Ra tribute. So it is very much in the spirit of Sun Ra, and, inasmuch it is pretty out I don't own any Sun Ra. There's some Sun Ra I love Sun Ra, I love Alice Coltrane, but I remember, like, I took do they still offer this, like, history of jazz class? There was, like, a history of jazz class taught on, like, all universities across the states. Like, you get, like, History of Jazz 101. They're like a survey first year freshman course that I took, and the teacher was a guitar player, and I remember the week we spent on Ornette Coleman and Sun Ra and free jazz, and whew, that was spiritual jazz. It was a fun week, but I remember like artificially, like, saying that I loved it, but I didn't really know if I did or not, but I like forcing myself to, like, listen to music that, um, somehow I thought, like, purely by osmosis, I would, like, get it the more I listened to it, but it was kind of actually, like, abrasive and unmusical and, tested every, like, convention of music that I ever knew at that point. So, yeah, this is also was, like, not an easy listening experience. I guess I'm a bit basic, I admit it. I'm a bit, you know I love a simple 3-chord song. I have Jerry Garcia's bluegrass album, "Old and in the Way," a very good one. It's probably gonna be starting to be worth some money in the not those used to be in the $5 bins. I bet they're gonna be eventually they're gonna be more and more expensive. I'm going to listen to The Dead in the next few days. Who knows? I may like it. Johnny, I have a feeling you gotta go with Working Man's Dead. Working Man's Dead. That's your album. Mark Lassman in the house. Sketches of Spain. Good to see you, Mark. Sorry for just blasting over that comment. Nice to have you here. Chris Hill, Miles of Spain and Bitches Brew are just 2 of the many Miles Davis that I have on compact disc. Cool, yeah, 2 very, progressive Miles records. I'm gonna go through my Dead records here real quick. I don't know if I'll be able to, like, really go off on them. This is live from the Shine Auditorium Volume 2. This is probably out there on disc. I don't have any of the new bootlegs, the new not new bootlegs, but the new, like, live Dead stuff. My collection is pretty, um like, I haven't gotten any new releases. There's nothing in my collection that comes after probably 80, if that even. But this has, "Turn On Your Love Light." That's sung by I won't be able to pick out the Bobby tunes probably. I don't really remember them that well. But I can kinda hear Bob's voice, and I can hear Jerry's voice, and Phil sings on some stuff. But, "Turn On Your Love Light," that's gotta be, and Death Don't Have No Mercy" is probably Jerry. "Turn On Your Love Light" is Pigpen. "It Hurts Me Too," Elmore James. "Morning Dew," "Walk me out on the morning dew, morning." Such a great tune. "Caution," The Grateful Dead. And then, oh my god, "Live from Mars Hotel," good grief. I mean, this is one of my favorites. This is just like Live from Mars Hotel was like I don't know, it got bypassed, you know? I don't know how much I think it was like Wasn't it a record, like, it was their last record on one label and their first on another? I can't really remember how it goes, but this one's wicked cool, and this one's got a killer song list on it. Scarlet Begonias. Scarlet Begonias, that's a Jerry tune. Ship of Fools, that's Bobby. Ship of Fools, sail away from me. I'm sure that's Bobby. I went to see the captain. It might be Jerry, actually. Strangers I could find, laid on top of. Sounds like Jerry was singing one. Pride of Cucamonga, da 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 da, silver apples in the sun. Loose Lucy is my delight. And U.S. Blues, that's definitely Bobby. U.S. Blues, oh my god, that's an anthem. That should be like Mariah Carey's, "All I Want for Christmas Is You." U.S. Blues should be the 4th of July song that everybody knows. That's a killer song, and then "Unbroken Chain," that's a Phil tune. Blue light rain, unbroken chain. Looking for familiar face. He's got the worst singing voice of them all, but his songs are, like, the greatest. He sings "Box of Rain" and, "Unbroken Chain," which is the tune. "Unbroken Chain" was, like, the song they never played live. They never, ever, ever, ever played it, and then they played it in '95 for the first time, like, ever, or the first time, like, since this album, which I don't even know what year this is. Um, and they thought, like, Unbroken Chain, there's like, why are they never played it? And they played it, like, at the at, like, Philly in '95 at, like, I don't know, Philly Stadium or whatever the stadium is. Then, like, 3 days later, they played it in St. Louis, I think, which I was at that show, and it was the 2nd time they played it, and people the whole crowd freaked out. We all knew the song. I mean, we and then China Doll, which is this harmony thing, this, like, um 5-part harmony thing that, Crosby, Stills and Nash basically taught them how to harmonize. Take up your China doll, take up your China doll. It's a oh, that's Addict is the one I'm thinking of. Addict, which is on a much earlier record, but this one has it has sensibilities of anyway, I'm sorry, I'm going off. Then this is a really fun record. I've talked about it. This is a bootleg. Look at this. This is so crazy. This is Garcia's Gang. This is a bootleg from '71. It was made in '86. It was pressed in '86, but it's from a show. It's from 4/26/71. I have no idea. It's probably oh, let's see. It says I think it says film. It was at I think it was at the Fillmore. Hold on. Um, yeah, all songs recorded at the Fillmore East in New York. Okay, it's the New York Fillmore with Dwayne Allman. With Dwayne Allman on 4/28/71. That's on the 2nd disc. Or no, wait, 4/28, yeah, on the 2nd disc. They play one side is Dark Star St. Stephen, and the 2nd side is Turn on Your Love Light. That show they've got Dwayne Allman with Jerry on guitar. Good grief, and this is like this incredible picture of Jerry I'd never seen. You wanna talk about punks. Look at these degenerates. Look at Jerry. Look at Pig. Look at Phil. These guys are just like they're degenerates. They're total punks. They like that could be like Nirvana. That could be like a grunge band from Seattle. That's so supremely cool. This is one of my favorite Dead this is one of my very, very favorite Dead pieces. I got that at Flash Disc Ranch. It says here, to correspond with band members, write Sing Sing, sell 1020. Then Wake of the Flood is like an earlier album, a 2nd or a 3rd album. It's weird. I forget what's on here, but it's got, like, both of these records, Blues for Allah and Wake of the Flood, these are like bad Dead records. These are the records that they just, like, didn't quite get right in the studio, and there's, like, some live recordings that are overdubbed with studio stuff, and, well, I kind of have to remind myself what's on these. Blues for Allah, oh, Help on the Way, That's a great tune. Franklin's Tower, King Solomon's Marbles, I don't even know what that song is. Stronger Than Dirt, I don't or Milking the Turkey. I don't even know what these songs are. They were like, they were dead on arrival, I think, basically. The Music Never Stopped, that's a Bob tune, I'm pretty sure. Crazy Fingers. Okay, Crazy Fingers is on Blues for Allah. Okay, I better stop talking shit about Blues for Allah. Sage and Spirit, I don't even know. Blues for Allah is this like jazzy, weird. It starts to get rather weird. Sandcastles and Glass Camels, Unusual Occurrences in the Desert. Okay, these are like, this is a weird record. Oh, this is with Donna and Keith. Okay, I'm getting a little confused. Like the discography is. I'm gonna throw these records on today. I'm really excited about that. Then I have Unlimited Devotion, Going Down the Road, Feeling Bad. Like I forgot, I have one picture disc. I have two. This is my other picture disc. I just thought this was so crazy, cool, and psychedelic. This is, I think, their debut. This is their debut record with Captain Trips here on the back. That I had to take out of the thing because it was like. Then Steal Your Face. This is kind of a starter pack. I don't. A lot of people love this one. This is not Skull and Roses. This is not Skull and Roses. This is um yeah. I'm not in love with this record, but it's got some good records. It has some good songs. I need to get Europe 72, another record I just let go. Europe 72. I don't know how come I don't have. Here's what happened to my records. Not that you care, but I think I took those 500 records at the last grab, and I took them to my folks' house, and I left them in like a container in their garage for like 6 years or even longer, and like every few years, I would take like 50 records out of it. I took a little collection with me. I filled up a car filled with like 500 records, I think, or like 5 or 800 records. Took them to and I left about 2,000 records behind. Then I went to my folks' house and I left those 5 or 800 records there. And then slowly over the course of 20 years that I've been living in Japan, I brought little by little back to the States. But I I wonder if there's boxes at my parents' house that I don't know where they've been lost or they were given away or somebody wandered into the garage. I don't know where some important stuff is missing, but like Europe 72 is not in here, but Mississippi half step to the loo. Hello, baby, I'm gone. Goodbye. Is on here. Ship of Fools is on here. Recorded by Bill Wolf. Recorded October 16th through 20th at Winterland in San Francisco, 74. I'm saying I don't love this. I love them all. I would reach for Europe 72 before I would reach for this. American Beauty, Box of Rain, Friend of the Devil. No, 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 that's Jerry. Phil, Jerry Sugar, Magnolia, that's Bobby, I'm sure. Operator, can you help me? That's either Bob or Pig. I forget who's going. Candyman's Jerry. Ripple is Jerry. Broke Down Pagone, that's Jerry. Tilda, Jerry. Jerry. Okay, Jerry. That's all Jerry was singing. Sugar Magnolia is the only one that um, Bobby sings. Cat, that's Jerry Band. Jerry Band. Okay, that's my dead collection. Not that deep. I'm missing some important records. I'm missing. Oh, I think I have some down here. I have Live Dead, which is like the best. Live Dead is like, oh my, that could hurt. Live Dead is the coolest. That the definitive Dark Star Saint Stephen on it. It's sublime. It's really really good. Um, oh, Jazz Drum March. That's not a very nice comment. I don't like that comment. He just says some silly kind of thing. I'm like honoring the dead here. It's kind of like, I mean, I'm having a good time here. We'll see. Have you ever heard There and Back Again? Phil Lesh and Friends have it on disc also. I don't know that. I don't know much um really after 95. I don't really know. And I don't know any album that got put out after 95. In 1995, I think the summer of 95, I got the phone call that Jerry died and that was kind of it was over. It was over. I did go see Further Fest, I think I went and saw that, but it was just like it was never quite the same. I would have gone back to go be a part of, um, the Sphere shows and, like, I would like to have seen Bobby in this last iteration of The Dead. I think I heard Fitz Electric Bar talk about it, and, he had nothing but high praise, and I think maybe they were lost for a couple years or, just, like, didn't quite know how to go on, and I think people were sort of like, I don't know, they were becoming like a something act, what do they call it? Like a nostalgia act, but I think they transcended that, I think. I never saw it after that, but I should yeah, I that Kingfisher record, I'm curious about that. Maybe I'll go to and Ace. I think is that a Rat Dog project? That might just be Bob Weir Bobby and the Midnights or something, that was another band that he had. I would like to go check out Ace because Ace has, Looks Like Rain, I love that song. So, that was my tribute to Bobby. Yeah, Bob Weir. Damn, Bobby, you were instrumental in making one of the greatest rock and roll bands of all time and changing my life and making it more full and fun and, just good choice. I'm really glad I got to be a Deadhead, and, it was fun, and it's a bummer you're gone. Um, yeah, music that really, really so many songs, so many, like, melodies, so many lyrics that just, like, touched my soul, really touched me deeply. Um, "May the four winds blow you safely home, roll away the dew." Um, in my time, I will roll, roll in a bed, by the waterside I will lay my head, listen to the river sing sweet songs to rock my soul. It's just it's a profound loss, but good on ya. 78, I think he made it to 78, that's a good run, and, I think he put out a lot of great music and positive vibes and a little mischief that the world needs, and, like, he played he like, essentially, a George Harrison to, Jerry's, you know, John and Paul, kind of, he had to wrestle with, being second in command, and not that Jerry ever asked for that or wanted to be that, but, he definitely was, and, what a fucking great partner to have in Bob Weir. Man, do I have a picture of him? I mean, here he is. I'll zoom in, hold on a second. There he is. This was on the cover of I think they called it, like, Unlimited Devotion. It was just the Grateful Dead, but it has a few nicknames. Bob Weir, he's passed through, and with old Captain Trips. They're playing in the band tonight. Billy's still with us, Phil's passed on, Pigpen's already up there. Oh, no, there's 2 Phils. There's there's 2 Phils. Okay, there's 2 Captain Trips and there's 2 Pigs. Okay, maybe no piano player, but, Bobby Weir, bless your soul. I, oh, give me a second. Thanks for hanging out with me. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. There's 2 little buttons on here. Too many little buttons. Thanks for hanging out. I hope, you put some dead music in your ears today. I hope you appreciate some Bob Weir. He was, he's a part of American, music history and, a legend, and I will always love him, and I will just always appreciate the contribution that he made to this band that I love so much. Okay, thanks for hanging out with me. I hope you guys find some time to get some dead in your life today, and, until next time, I'll see you out there in the ether. Okay, bye for now. See you next time. Bye. Rest in peace, Bob Weir. The music never stopped. Roll away the dew, not fade away.